I don't know if Vanya from Sure Travel is on the call with us today. Vanya, if you are there, if you can let us know. Vanya, as you all can imagine, the travel industry has been pretty much hardest hit by this than just about anyone else. Just to give you an idea, last week I did a session with Vanya's people, and part of the package is that Vanya is one of the most inspirational CEO leaders in this country. And part of the package is that I'm going to be doing an interview with her on how she has enabled her team to stay upbeat, motivated, reinventing their business. You can't believe what they're doing. And so I'm going to be interviewing. I'm actually doing the interview this afternoon. We'll share it via USB. But for any of you who have organizations, and I'm quite sure Michael would be doing this, and other speakers, and certainly what I'm offering is for us, if I come in and do a session, I will also interview your leader, because I want to hear about what you're doing to not waste a good crisis, so that your people can be inspired and so many others as well. But we'll share that with you when it is done. Thanks, Cam.
Cool. Thanks so much, Justin. So I have a couple of questions here lined up that I've been taking note of throughout the session that I'd like to address. But before we do, there's been a lot of talk of PDF and infographics to be shared. Those will be part of the post-event wrap-up, which will be a video, it will be infographics, it will be notes or minutes, if you will. So please look out for that. We'll probably have that ready for you on Monday, and that will be post every session. We hope to also have some of the Mentimeter interaction there, and then whatever happens in this session now with the collaboration through the Q&A, we will add that. Cool. So the first question I noted, which to be the most important for a virtual setting, is how do we handle internet issues? Specifically, if it's a speaker on the one hand, or if it's a delegate on the other hand. So the best way to handle that, first and foremost, is to kill the video. And the moderator of the session, i.e. me, could turn off the video. So I have that ability when I set up a Zoom meeting. I don't know the functionality in Microsoft Meetings, but I do know that you can do that. The other way to do it, most of us connect via Wi-Fi. If you have an Ethernet cable, it's the same one that works in the printer. You can connect that from your router into your computer. A more stable connection via a hard Ethernet cable is probably your best bet from that perspective. I hope I answered that question. In terms of if a presenter is currently going through any form of internet trouble, you can kill their video, but you do risk the chance of losing that connection. As you would have noticed in Justin's session, there is a bit of a connection issue at the one part of the talk, but we soldiered through. The audio was good enough to continue. What I would have done is maybe kept the slide up and killed the video. So that's a way of handling that. Bev, I see you want to say something?
There we go. Thank you. Yes, thanks, Cam. I think great points, Cam. And I think remember, though, that as events organizers, and this is where the preparation comes in, you can actually deal with a lot of this stuff up front. Dealing with it when people come into the session can be very disruptive for the session, and it's also taking away the focus of the producer. So the producer can do a lot of can certainly help individual delegates and can help the speaker. But I think one of the things, talking about infographics, something that I'll put together as well, is also maybe just looking at a preparation guide for delegates, because if we give them this information up front, they come in prepared, and we can do a what if this happens section, because things happen in the moment, and there's a stress on the conference organizers to say, how do I fix it, how do I fix it, how do I fix it, which takes away the focus of the actual engagement. So I think a preparation tech checklist for delegates dealing with a number of these things is a wonderful way to actually ensure a smooth running event.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for that, Bev. Can I please have, by a show of hands, anyone with a question? Leon, can we go to you first? I'll unmute you. You're unmuted.
Yeah, no, I'm happy. It all seems pretty clear at this point. I've been loving this session, basically, because this is actually the first session I've had from any of our partners. I mean, I'm come from an agency environment where anybody's actually reached out to me with a personal call from Paul, no less. So I think, just seeing how you guys are adapting to this, because obviously it could hit you the worst, I think has been inspirational for me. So I actually, after you guys had your thing switching everything to digital, I then decided, okay, what of my upcoming events, which were planned and are possibly going to be cancelled, can I switch to digital? So I started those discussions. So I think what it's shown me is just, how positive actions such as yours spill over into the whole industry. So I think my question, if anything, is just obviously what is going to happen in terms of facilitating digital interactions for clients in terms of eventing? Because our big thing is, you can say you want to switch an event to live streaming, but what is happening with the actors who have to be there? What's happening with the talent who has to be there? How are they going to screen themselves? And apparently the actors and talent currently are on complete lockdown. You can't get them onto set. So our teams are waiting to see from industry what's going to come out of that. But we've now got the platform and we know what we want to do, but what's actually going to happen in terms of health regulations? What are the best practices going to be? And currently, that doesn't exist yet. We don't have those answers. Maybe once lockdown lifts, we can have those discussions. So I think May is going to be the time. But I mean, anything you guys can give in terms of, I think, what we should be looking at doing. What's the checklist, I think, for hosting a digital event, the practical behind the scenes? That's what I'd be interested in.
That's a very good question there, Leon. And if I may, before I pass on to MJ, just position something. So we've been playing around, if I can use that word, with different methodologies over the past couple of weeks since the beginning, actually a week or two before lockdown. That is in the shape of a live session like this and pre-recorded sessions like we've done with a couple of our clients. And I'd like MJ to elaborate on a pre-recorded versus a live session. MJ, over to you. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think that it's a very interesting scenario because we do have a partner inside USB, Uzi, from a media point of view, who has got the ability to run very small scale meeting room, green screen scenarios. We can build and develop for us all a complete backdrop that is branded, that suits the client image and the client feel. We've also run, because we developed a concept several months back called Fuel, Ignite, and Accelerate. Fuel the excitement for a conference, ignite what was taking place at a conference, and accelerate the communication after it, rather than just thinking about it like a stage and an audience as we did in the past. So the fuel, I see we have a slide on that as well. So we believed right from the get-go, even before lockdown, that we could fuel attention using video, using infographics, using short-based messaging by involving short production value with the organization concerned, and then getting the excitement put back into events, because we all know pre-lockdown delegate fatigue was very real. And you'll know that if you ever had delegates sit in the back rows first at your events. After the event itself, we changed the events massively. Shorter communication bursts on stage, interaction between people, almost airport lounge style conversations. And then afterwards, we would pre-package them. We can deliver you a brand avatar. We can give you infographics. We can give you what we then called conference television, short-based grabs of everything that even if people do have live problems, you can feed back into them. So we'll share this with you on the report afterwards as well. As I say, we've been working on this for some time, so you can kill that slide. Thanks, Cam. But I think more than anything, we've done this before and we've done it very, very well. USB has now stepped up into the role of facilitation in terms of that. So it's always been a unique speaker bureau. It's now unique in terms of its offerings. It's got some great speakers, and we've got a bureau where we can bring people together. So we're the right people to partner with you on this. But I do think overall, whether it's one-on-one interviews that we package and film, it doesn't matter. From a digital production point of view, the event that I'm doing with one of the biggest conference groups in the world, Informa, is we're remotely interviewing people like the CEO of Kimberly-Clark, interviewing people from America, Australia, Europe, Israel, packaging it, running a dual feature scenario, allowing them to keynote. We've got graphics that you could work on as well, Leon, if you wanted to, or we can develop them in association with you to top and tail and create the overall theme, and either deliver it as a live streamed event or a packaged event that all it needs is that pre-preparation. I mean, I know Stephen Kramer's on here at the moment from Co-Create, the brand new tech company that has replaced the old Fujitsu. We can say that now in public. We're planning on doing exactly that to replace what would have been a series of very upmarket IT dinners. And we're going to be pre-packaging this with some core materials and delivering it to his IT people. We're doing this with CADA, the Credit Analytics and Data Analytics Conference, where that's been cancelled outright for 2020. 2 or whatever thousand delegates go to that bloody thing. We're putting it together now in a virtual series of bite-sized grabs. You know, I think it's very unlikely that people will want to sit down as well for 36 hours straight and watch a conference. We've got all the ways of breaking it up, shaping it, and helping you deliver it. I think that's pretty much me. I know we're running late, guys, but I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to chat about it with you. You know, it's how you slice and dice this cake. We've got the talent. We've got all the speakers ready and on standby to do it. Many of the speakers in our stable have extensive radio and television experience. We've got the ability to relax your people in advance. And the one thing that we've learned that's most significant is if your FD, HR, managing director, CEO, CIO is nervous about presenting, ask them if they're nervous about having a conversation. So we can film a virtual conversation. After immediate lockdown, we can come to your office and dress a set. We've done that for a client just before lockdown as well, where we've interviewed people where literally it's the 2 people from a company on screen, not even the presenter on screen, but live with them. And even under new social distancing rules, we think we can get through that kind of scenario as well. And we've got an ability countrywide to deliver you a short green screen studio where you can literally do what it is that you want to do. So bring us the problem and we'll help you deliver a solution. Thank you.
Brilliant answer. Thank you so much there, MJ. I just want to answer a couple of questions from the chat. Can entertainment sessions not be pre-recorded? I suggest they be pre-recorded, largely because the inputs into laptops for a musician, it doesn't really run the right calibration for output that you would get out of an amp or a mixer. So I'll definitely say pre-record if it's a musical act. We are going to try something very risky next week. I wanted to keep it as a surprise, but to those of you that stayed on, we do have a ventriloquist opening up our next session. Although entertaining, he is also insightful. So let's see how that goes. There's another question here. How do virtual events that are campaign-driven, not conference style? So I think the question there ties into what MJ says around pre-recording, making sure that the buyer persona from a marketing perspective is set and their questions would be answered appropriately through a feedback loop that maybe Bev can talk about with Mentimeter, as Mentimeter can be used offline. Bev, over to you.
Yeah, I think the difference between a conference event as opposed to campaign, and I think we kind of almost going on road shows here where we've got a specific message. This is where I think that we have an awesome opportunity. And the big difference is that we have to come in a lot sooner. We can't do a 30-minute brief and work with this. So we as a team need to come in and be part of your campaign and your communication conversation right from day one. And then the whole process, and as you see the infographic, if you go and download it, the first part is we have to shape the entire experience, and the entire experience is through the campaign. Now, we've used Mentimeter a little bit, and you've all used Slido Mentimeter in conferences at some level, but I'm also using it very successfully in terms of building research. And there are 2 things I want to suggest here. Is number one, Cam, I've sent a message on the group. Leon, you spoke about that checklist. Okay, what if I would like to know if anybody would like to be part of an offline conversation, so we don't have to gather all in one place, using Mentimeter to be able to build this campaign, to be able to take this and to create that checklist together. If you'd like to be able to do that, but certainly in terms of the campaign, we have to be part of the campaign theme, strategy, story, just like we were doing with Fujitsu. We had 4 meetings with them already, and we hadn't even really got to the major planning of the event yet. So I think that's the big thing. If it's campaign the pre-preparation session becomes exponentially more important. It's not a case of a speaker showing up on the day. We are actually part of your campaign story.
Brilliant answer. Thank you so much, Bev. Nicolau, I did see your hand up. Can we come to you? I did see you put your hand down. I'll unmute you.
Okay, thanks very much, Cameron. And thanks very much for this event. Paul, thanks for the invite as well. And Tandy, I think she sent me the invite yesterday. The reason this is also the first thing I've also picked up, and I'm in turn also encountering this problem with our branches, is how people present themselves on these platforms. In the case that they don't know how to interact with the camera, they don't know how to interact with the screen. And there's been a number of times I've actually had to call the office managers and my branch managers up and say, please, we're going to go through a session where this is what you shouldn't do, this is what you should do. Okay, this is where the camera needs to be in relation to you. And stupid things like somebody be eating while in presentation rather than turning off the camera to have a quick snack. Questions like, at what point, what is acceptable and what isn't? Okay, and is something like having a sip of water or a cup of coffee still acceptable, or should you be in turn turning off the camera for that? Okay, so that you're not perceived to be impersonal or perceived to be rude on camera. Like busy, and you'll notice, Cameron, I have a habit of turning on and off my camera, and it's because my wife is doing the laundry in the back. And every now and then I'll go and turn off the camera and allow it to pass. And then she'll walk back and I'll turn off my camera and she'll do the reverse. And it's because I've become very, very conscious of what's happening behind me. That's roughly the indication. And I do understand the idea of framing and positioning yourself as well as lighting. I just want to understand, when can you turn off the camera and when shouldn't you turn off the camera, and what you should or shouldn't be doing on camera. That's roughly the question.
It's a good question, and I think Justin did touch on it a little bit earlier with a couple of his points. Maybe we can go back to him with a little bit more. But from my side, in terms of camera etiquette, as well as addressing people, there's a couple of fundamentals that you need to keep at the top of mind. And that's obviously, if you're too close, it's a bit awkward. It feels like you're looking at my nostrils, which is a bit strange. Yes. Also, if you're too far, you can't see facial expressions, right? When it comes down to eating, I'm in your corner there. Water, if you do it in a meeting, I think that's okay. If you have a bottle of water, take a sip, etc. From my side, facilitating this, I need to make sure that I don't have a frog in my throat and sit here clearing my throat. But it also comes down to how you want to be perceived in the meeting and the rules that you set out. So if you facilitate a meeting starting out with the end in mind of how you hope it to end, i.e. when you arrived, I asked everyone to turn mics off and video on, to use the comment section, etc. That's the pre-framing that Justin was mentioning. And I see Justin is ready to answer us. So let me unmute him and hand over to him.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Nicola, thanks very much for the question. And again, I want to say, I know we stand up here as the experts. I truly believe this is going to evolve over time. It's going to evolve over time. When I first started on this, thought it was permissible to have video off. I've now realized if we're going to have a connection with one another, we need to have videos on. I'm loving some of the responses that are coming in here. Colette says we should be treating it the same way as we would in a physical conference environment. In a physical conference environment, would you just leave the room? You know what? Sometimes you would. But you'd be very careful about how you did it, right? And you'd have to have a really good reason. I confess, I did it just now. And what happened was, it was my electrical cord. So I had to figure that out. And I knew if I left, then I was going to leave that empty space. Now, it's possible you just leave the empty space, right? It just felt to me it would be cleaner to have the image up there. So I think we'll see, but most of the time, we want to keep it on. Georgie, lovely response. I think it boils down to what you would do in a live meeting. So if you drink coffee in a live meeting, then why not? I had coffee in the beginning. as we started. As a speaker, I'm not going to drink coffee, so you wouldn't have seen me as a speaker. But while Ndumisa was doing his wonderful presentation, I was having a little sip of my coffee. And then, lovely point there, I think that comes from Cam, you can have a background that doesn't interrupt viewers, Nicolas. So you can put in a virtual background. Zoom do that. You do need certain technical requirements to do that, but that then would help you if you're in a situation where you were having people move in the background. Of course, understandably, that can be distracting. But the other thing, guys, and again, at this point, we're still in somewhat in the state of opinions. There aren't hard and fast rules. Some people, like our friend Steph Duplessis, has a home-based studio. When this was happening, is one of those people who really jumped into action, and I know he's a great friend of USB's, and he's got the studio. Some people saying, "Oh, we're all going to have our home-based studios." Well, there's another thing, and I like what he's doing. Absolutely love it. But I also like the fact that when I look at Michael right now, I see his beautiful yellowwood cabinet, and there's an intimacy and connection in that as well. When I'm looking here at Brian from the Ripple Effect, I see that he's in a home base, and that also creates connection. So I don't think there's hard and fast rules. When I'm looking at Megan from USB, I see the USB banner in the background, so it's very USB driven. All of those are good. But I think I think it's as our friend Bev always likes to say, it's not either or, it's and. But most important, make sure we can see you and that you're visual, and I think the rest along the way we're figuring out.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Justin. Up until this morning, I didn't even know if my webcam was going to work. So I was going to use my phone and use my phone's camera and the computer to do the audio. But thank God I figured out how to do that. From Georgie, I think you nailed it with your comment. Well played there. And I think whatever would happen on stage or whatever would happen in a boardroom, I think that should be appropriate for online. Also, I have had on a couple of occasions people with their microphones over here, they are chewing while speaking on a Zoom meeting. And I don't know about you guys, but that's super off-putting, right? So, yes, Justin?
Cam, I have to contradict what Georgie said. Georgie said you would always wear pants to a Zoom meeting, so therefore wear pants to a Zoom meeting. Georgie, I'm afraid you're wrong. The latest online retail research coming out of Europe, true story, has shown there is a significantly greater proportion of tops that are being sold to bottoms. True story, significantly
Isn't
greater
that
proportion.
It's a good statistic, but frightening.
And so if they can't see, make sure you're comfy.
Yeah, it's all about comfort, isn't it? And I'm sure you've all seen the videos of people walking behind and someone's in their underpants over there while you're on a Zoom meeting. I mean, how embarrassing. Just to show you what the functionality looks like, this is a background that I can just turn on and off. I can be in the grass or whatever. So that's the background that would have been spoken about to stop people walking behind. Obviously, you have to have one color behind you. In the form of a green screen would be best. I do know we have a question. I don't know if Steve is still here anymore, but Michael, would you like to answer the question? If the whole focus is face-to-face with conferencing and networking, do we still get that with digital, or do we lose it slightly? MJ, would you like to answer that?
I'd like to. Thank you. And I'd like to try and answer a few questions, if I may, all in one, because the aspect of face-to-face, listen, what we need and what face-to-face does, it provides empathy through engagement. What we're going to have to learn to deliver with you is empathy through engagement in a virtual space, because let's go back to that survey. Half of the world's event professionals out of 12,500 on that survey the other day said they do not expect events to come back until at least October and probably November. Now, that means the end of the year, and then it's Christmas and holiday time again, bizarre as it may seem, and that means 2021. None of us on this Zoom call can afford to write off an entire year. Let's not pray for what we think we once had, because things have changed. I'm the change guy, right? Let's change with it. And I wanted, if I may, just to share the screen with you, because again, empathy through engagement is one thing. I hope you can all see that. Business etiquette for virtual meetings was a fun thing I put together as an infographic the other day, a quick 8-point guide to share with people. It's been very, very well received on my social media. People are lapping up this kind of information. It's not a company bureaucratic bloody thing. It's kind of simple and straightforward. I'll share that with you happily once this thing has gone through. Short-based communication. And with Nicolau, from a real estate background, I've got personally on my social media between my Facebook page and LinkedIn, probably some 2,000 real estate people who are crying out at the moment. I'm battling to answer all my messages. I'm working 7 till 7 at the moment and physically turning stuff off. They're crying out for engagement. They don't know quite what to do in their world. And I think that, again, let me go back to what I said right at the beginning. Watch Robbie Brosen's communication to his people. If you are not communicating with your people right now, you're leaving them in the dark. And that means they're open to everything else, all the negativity, all the fake stuff, all the stuff that's on Sky News, BBC, ENCA, and it is shit. So what you need to do is engage people directly with what it is that is your story, your DNA, uncovering your own strategy, connecting well with human beings and sharing with them in an empathetic manner. It is what Bev termed leadership through communication. However you do it, video, infographics, down WhatsApp, over Facebook, there are so many ways of doing it. But if you can do it as well as Robbie Brosen from Nando's did, man, I take my hat off to you. We've got to do this, guys. The world is not going to be as it was, perhaps ever again. But in all sincerity, we're not going to have real face-to-face meetings en masse until next year. Thank you.
I see. The mute button eluded me there. Thank you so much, MJ. I really appreciate that. Stephen, did that answer your question? I'll unmute you.
Yeah, it did. Thank you. Sorry, I will learn how to put the big background on for the next session. Just a question, Michael. Another question, sorry, and to the whole panel as well. Something that's, Michael, you experienced it when you did an event for us 2 odd years ago, where you were on stage and it was a panel discussion, and the discussion was going the wrong way. Not necessarily in what was being spoken. However, you picked up on it because you were physically there, and that's the type of thing that worries me. Justin, you mentioned, you must have your video, and there's only so much. You can't see everything. Well, maybe I can't. You trained to do it. You guys are, but to me, it's very important to face, and especially launching a new company in the time that we're in now is not easy. And we decided to go the gradual process. I mean, over to you guys if you can answer that.
Thank you. I'll defer to my colleagues in a moment, but I think briefing is everything. And the other aspect is, like a good Zoom meeting or a virtual meeting is facilitated. Having that brilliant facilitator on hand is exactly what we need to do. We had an example working with a Belgian company the other day, Piratas. The MD wanted to sum up however the general feeling was from all the people that were engaged. He had no idea in his instance, and he was Belgian, and he was talking to an awful lot of South African people. He was nervous about it. He didn't quite know what to do. We drove a situation with him where, using the feedback loop, we were able to deliver him 4 word clouds from the event that summed up exactly what people liked, didn't like, and wanted to know. And he then took those 3 word clouds on screen and literally worked them back and led that conversation back, showing the appropriate empathy. So there are ways to do it, but we've just got to learn to work differently at that level, I think. And, Tebogo, sorry to jump in there, but you're also asking about fewer venues. I think what we're looking for right now, we had a conversation with one of them yesterday, are venues around the country that are going to reposition themselves. I can't do much with 5,000 seaters at the moment. Nobody can. Even my favorite rock band has cancelled its tour until 2021. So there's not much I can do there. But with smaller meeting rooms, the way that we dress, the way that we work studios, we can bring in 5 key people and run a panel discussion, which then, with moderation from the one side, we've been moderating this, by the way, with WhatsApp. Whilst you've all been engaged and chatting, all of us from USB have been WhatsApping each other. we can steer a conversation in any particular direction. And with a trained facilitator, we don't have to go off brief. We don't have to go off track, and we hold it all together from there. So it's just how you skin the cat. Sorry, I defer to what do they say in Parliament? I give way to my honourable friend.
Brilliant. Go for it, Justin.
Thanks, Michael. And Stephen, thanks for the question. I tell you something, I felt like you did probably 2.5 weeks ago. I was like, this is second best, this is temporary, and we just have to deal with it. Stephen, I'm truly seeing opportunities to this format that I don't see in live events. And some of the opportunities that I'm seeing, obviously there's aspects like the kind of time saving that you can achieve and cost saving through not having to fly everybody in. That's what's happening with some of our big clients, is that they're realizing, wow, we can now put that focus into the online events. Now that's the key point. If you had an offline event and you just said people show up with no framing, no real set, it would just be a disaster. Think about what we do in an event that happens on stage. There is a producer, yeah? There are, this colleague of mine who did his event in LA, he had a team of 15 people. And so that every single person in the event had what he calls a hugger. And a hugger is connecting one-on-one with the people in the group. Hey, how you doing? Is there anything that you need? Are you getting what you need? Is there any suggestions that you have? The same kind of high touch that a great event organizer would do with a in-person event, we need to be doing with these. And to be honest, we are still figuring it out. Last night, I did a very intense group coaching session. I had 80 people on, so virtually the same amount of people. I brought people up onto the virtual stage, so to speak. So the two of us were having this intensive strategic coaching for everybody to watch. But I tell you, Stephen, what I loved about it was that there's an equality about it. It's not like there's some people on the back of the room, some people are by the door trying to jump out for a smoke. I'm not saying that you couldn't do that virtually as well, but it's like everybody is here. We're all in front of each other. And when you can put something in front of people, they all see it on the same way on their screen. It feels to me like there is an immediacy about it, but you have to frame it. You have to structure it. You have to produce it. You have to have a camera. You have to have a Paul behind the scenes. You have to have a team making it all happen.
Brilliant. And that really positions me quite well to add my 2 cents there, Justin. Thank you. As MJ mentioned, we're running this on the back end with WhatsApp. We've created a WhatsApp group specifically for this session, and we're communicating. I don't know if you notice as well, every now and then I popped up a slide, and that said 5-minute warning, because we lose the ability to track time in these sessions, and we don't have comfort monitors. We don't have comfort monitors with timing on it anymore. So we have to improvise. We have to think what is on stage that our speakers need to best produce this. As well as if you recall a PowerPoint slide, what do? We have a master slide, and that master slide has got everyone's presentation within it. So one person, which was me in this session, controlled that throughout. What we've noticed people doing in the past is where they come short is they let each speaker do their slides. And then people are like, oh, how do I share? Where's that share button, etc. So it comes down to small little tips and tricks like that, which we'll gladly share with you. We'll put it in video, we'll put it in PDF, whatever. We don't mind. It could be a Zoom meeting much like this. Or what we're doing at USB at the moment is allowing each person in the business to be a facilitator and moderator in each session. Get used to telling people to put Alt-Y up. Use the comment section. Get used to Mentimeter. Screen sharing for lack of better functionality. Annotating, drawing on the screen. So it's all about getting used to it. And with my final thought before I hand to Bev is how do we use this going forward, which will be part of the session 3, where we'll talk about how do we use hybrid events to our advantage, because we're going to see a travel ban internationally for 3 months, locally for 3 weeks, 6 weeks. We don't quite know what that looks like. But how do we collaborate with each other and use this technology to the best of our ability? Alex Liebner, who will be speaking, at the last one, we'll talk about being in a time warp. We fast forwarded almost 10 years in 21 days because we were forced to take on this type of technology and use it and implement it and get the best out of it. So Bev, would you like to add anything there?
Thanks, Cam. So I think, Stephen, I've just been reading your comments there. I think, Stephen Covey kind of nailed it. We've got to start with the end in mind. I think the purpose of the experience that we want to create is probably the most important things. And those are the questions we need to be asking ourselves before we start applying WhatsApp groups, technology, Zoom, etc., etc. We need to be very, very clear in what we are trying to achieve. And I think that we have an enormous opportunity here because if you think about it, if we talk about a roadshow, you come down to Port Elizabeth and you hire out the boardwalk because you've got to get 200 people in the room. If you are looking for intimacy, the virtual environment allows us to talk to 20 people at a time and then create a collective data-driven set of input, which we could then go back to them again because we're no longer tied in by time and venue. We can really look at how we put it together. So I think we've really got to be focusing on what is the most important thing that we want to achieve. What is the experience we need to achieve that? And then how do we make that happen? And then to open up thinking in terms of really coming up with some really new and different ideas to try and see what works. Personally, this is my favorite part of the Zoom session. I think that we are hearing things, we're getting great questions, it's more intimate, and I think that we can use this. So let's really start at the end and work our way backwards. That way, I think that we will get the quality of connection, messaging, communication, control, and what we are looking for as part of our event. Thanks, Cam.